Now here's your bonus question. What American woman was born a slave and was called the Moses of her people because she led more than 300 slaves to freedom via the Underground Railroad?
Hi, I'm Ken Alford. Welcome to Why in the World. Well, this is Women's History Week. It's a time to celebrate the many achievements and contributions which women have made throughout history. During the past 2 decades, women scholars have done a lot of research to rediscover those women whose wide range of achievements have been too often overlooked by history. Well, happily, many of these great women have been rediscovered now, and today we want to share their contributions with you by playing a special Why in the World game. This game is called Lost and Found. You won't find it at your neighborhood game store yet. In fact, it's based on one which is being developed by women all over the country as a 15th birthday present commemorating the founding of the Feminist Press. To lead us through the game is Allison Bernstein, a program officer at the Ford Foundation, where she's responsible for improving undergraduate curriculum with particular emphasis on minorities and women's studies. And now let me ask our student panelists to introduce themselves.
I'm Emily Glickman from Hunter College High School in Manhattan.
I'm Thomas Cassane from Benjamin and Cardozo High School in Queens.
I'm Eileen Smith from the New Lincoln School in Manhattan.
And I'm Andrew Schmolka from Scarsdale High School.
And thank you all for being with us. Allison, could you start by telling us a little bit about your work and how the game got started?
Well, Ken, I'm a program officer giving grants to colleges and universities and scholars doing work in women's history. And about 7 or 8 months ago, a number of us got together and played Trivial Pursuit and discovered that Trivial Pursuit did not really help to uncover the lost women of history, so we decided to start a game ourselves. And we've been asking people all over the country to submit questions. And this game today is based on the questions they've submitted.
Okay, and a little later on in the show we'll be telling you how you can submit some questions too. But right now, let's get into the game and see how it works.
Okay, this is the game. There'll be Team A, that's you, Andrew and Aileen, and Team B, Tom and Emily. And I'll ask each team in turn one question. If you answer it correctly, you'll get 1 chocolate prize over there. If you answer it correctly, you'll also get a chance at a bonus question, which will give you 2 chocolate prizes. Also, let me point out that there's going to be a distorted image on the screen, and as your correct answer comes into focus, you will get the proper answer of the woman you've identified. That's how the game will be played.
Through the miracle of modern television.
Indeed.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Okay, let's start now with Team A, Andrew and Aileen. Here's your first question. What congresswoman from New York became the first vice presidential candidate of a major political party?
Is Ferraro the first one?
Geraldine Ferraro.
Sounds good to me.
The answer is Geraldine Ferraro. Ken, please give them a chocolate
Okay,
prize. All right.
there it goes.
By the way,
Right across the table.
her most recent role is the lead in a Pepsi commercial, and I'm sure you've heard about that.
Daughter.
All right, now on to a bonus question for Team A. What other woman who already lived in the White House was suggested as a vice presidential candidate to run with President Truman in 1948? You've got 15 seconds.
48.
Shall I give you another little clue?
Yeah.
All right. She became a delegate to the United Nations after her husband's death and was ultimately called the First Lady of the World.
Time.
Loretta Scott? No.
Jean Kirkpatrick.
Well, our 15 seconds is up.
All right. The
Says
correct
the
answer.
timekeeper.
The correct answer is Eleanor Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
Team B got it. All right. All right. Let me just also say that it was too obvious. Eleanor Roosevelt came from a prominent New York family, and her uncle Theodore was present at her marriage and gave her away to marry Franklin, who then became president some 20 years thereafter. All right. Let's go now to Team B with your question. First question, Team B. What woman television journalist was anchor for the Today Show and went on to interview such famous people as President Nixon, Henry Kissinger, and Golda Meir?
Barbara Walters?
The answer is?
Barbara Walters?
Right, Barbara Walters. You got your first question. By the way, she is now co-host for ABC's 2020 and does her own television specials. Ken?
And there is your
Thank you.
prize.
All right, now here comes your bonus question, Team B. A little more difficult. In 1887, what newspaper reporter pretended insanity and had herself locked up in an insane asylum to learn how inmates are treated? Her investigations were so successful that a public inquiry was launched and a number of reforms initiated as a result of her columns.
I think so.
Dorothea Dix.
Well, that was a good guess, but it's not the right answer. Let me try Team A. Do you have
This
a?
week.
I'll give you one more cue. Her real name was Elizabeth Cochran, but when she became a reporter, she chose the byline Nellie. Nellie who?
Time.
Time?
I came across that this week. I can't
Nellie Bly is
Nellie
the person we're looking
Bly.
for. Nellie Bly, in fact, was part of a journalistic movement called the Muckrakers at the turn of the century, who, like the Watergate reporters, exposed corruption all over American society.
And no truth to the rumor that that was Captain Bly's daughter.
No truth at all. All right, no bonus chocolate dollars, but let's now go back to Team A, all right?
I might note at this point that we're even, Steven.
Aha,
We
all
each
right.
have one
Even
chocolate
Sally.
dollar.
Yes, right.
that way either. So.
Okay, let's try now Team A. Who is a woman physicist who was launched into prominence in 1983 when she became the first woman astronaut, American woman astronaut, to travel in space? She recently appeared on Why in the World.
Sally Ride.
Did I hear that?
Could be a yes.
Sally Ride.
Sally Ride is the right answer.
Good for you. All right.
Okay.
All right,
Remember
there you
when
go.
skitters across the table.
I wanted you to know, though, that the first American woman in space came almost 20 years after the first Soviet woman in space, who went up in space in 1963, Valentina Tereshkova. Okay, now you get a bonus question. That wasn't a bonus question. For $2 chocolate dollars, who was called the First Lady of the Air, and in 1932 was the first woman to make a solo flight across the Atlantic in 20 hours and 40 minutes?
Amelia Earhart.
That's correct. Did you know the answer to that,
Yeah.
TV? All right, 2, Ken.
All right. My stopwatch is not getting much of a workout. You guys are doing very well.
Very
except
well
for one
over there.
question.
That way.
I don't know if you knew that in 1937, Amelia Earhart was lost over the Pacific. Her body
Yeah.
has never been found.
Right.
And after her performances in the air, there was a group of women pilots called the WASPs, the Women's Air Service Personnel. And they flew bomber practice runs for the military during the Second World War, but they were not allowed in combat. So she really led the way for that group. All right, let's now go to Team B, all right? Here is your first question, Team B. What woman led the campaign for women's suffrage for 56 years and became the first and only woman whose picture appears on U.S. currency, the silver dollar?
Susan B. Anthony.
Right,
Susan B. Anthony.
The answer is Susan B. Anthony.
Okay.
And there
Give
you
that
go.
team one. All right.
No messing with the bank.
A little history about Susan B. Anthony. Before women were given the vote, she managed to cast a ballot in the 1872 presidential election. She was arrested, found guilty, and fined $100 for casting a ballot. Hoping to test the case before the Supreme Court, she refused to pay the fine, but the case was never prosecuted. Susan B. Anthony. Okay, now here is your bonus question, Team B. A Bunny's Tale, a recent TV movie, was based on the life of a real woman who got her job as a Playboy bunny in order to write an expose. Who is she?
Gloria
Steinem.
Steinem.
That's correct.
I
Pretty
don't need
good,
to stopwatch
Ken.
at all. There's 2.
By the way, you know that Gloria Steinem is the founder of Ms. Magazine.
Magazine, right.
And Ms. Magazine was founded in, anybody know? Pretty recently, 1972, the year that ERA was passed by Congress. So that was a red letter year. All right, now back to Team A. Okay, here's your first question, Team A. What woman won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979 for her humanitarian work with the sick and dying of India?
Sister something or other.
Close. Close, try it.
Okay.
All right, let me try.
Two-word answer, and you have one of them.
Well, close. She is the founder of the Missionaries of Charity, a religious order which maintains an international network of hospitals, orphanages, schools.
Time.
Time. All right, shall we turn?
You don't get anything for sister? That
No, sister, not even
Oh, well.
a cent. Shall we go to Team B?
Yeah.
Mother Teresa.
That's correct,
Kinda
Mother
right.
Teresa.
Yep.
All
Because,
right.
they get one
Yes,
for this
they
one
do.
because
That
that was
was-
a primary question,
That's
not
correct.
a bonus. Okay.
But now they get a bonus for having answered that properly.
Okay.
Okay, here's your bonus question, Team B. What American woman won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931 for her humanitarian efforts among the poor and disadvantaged in Chicago's slums? She founded Hull House, a famous settlement house.
Let's go to this.
Hold on, wait your turn now. Okay, you've got Ken's timing you.
Need one of these big things where the second hand
Hand
ticks
goes
back and
back.
forth and the band goes tick,
Music.
tick.
Okay.
Wow.
Hull House was a settlement house that provided community services at the turn of the century.
Time.
Time, there you go.
Jane Addams?
Jane Addams is
That's
the
it,
right
that's
answer.
it.
Very good.
Wow.
All right, they get 2
What a
of those
bummer.
chocolate prizes.
Okay.
Come on,
All
fork
right.
them over. Let's
Jane Addams was a writer, she was a lecturer, she was active in the women's suffrage movement, and in 1919 became the president of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And in 1920, she helped to found the American Civil Liberties Union. She was a major social reformer of her generation and someone we can look to for historical precedents in many ways. All right, now here's your bonus question, Team A. All right, a little more difficult. Who wrote these stirring lyrics in the year 1862?
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
These are from the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and President Lincoln was said to have wept when he heard them. What woman lyricist wrote these lyrics?
Came across that one too. Oh.
And it'll be time coming up here.
Okay.
All right.
No idea.
Team B?
I have no idea.
We don't know.
Okay, the answer is Julia Ward Howe.
Oh,
By the way, the melody was, does anybody know the melody? John Brown's Body.
John Brown's Body.
John
That's a
Brown's
whole
Body,
dream, great.
right. She was also a playwright, and her play, Leonora, ran on Broadway in 1857. She was also active in the women's suffrage movement, the Votes for Women's movement. And another woman I think you may have heard of or should hear of, Catherine Lee Bates, wrote the lyrics to America the Beautiful. So two very famous songs of our country were written, the lyrics were written by women. All right, let's go on now to the next question. I think we're up to Team B.
Right.
Okay, here's your first question, Team B. What woman civil rights activist continues to work for her husband's dream?
Mrs. King.
I think I heard the correct name. Coretta Scott King was the right answer. All right, there's one for you. Thanks, Bill. All right, now, one other thing about this particular woman and her husband. President Reagan signed a bill which will make her husband's birthday a national holiday as of January
I
1986.
already enjoyed that.
Okay, you got it in New York, right. All right, now here's your bonus question, Team B. What American woman was born a slave and was called the Moses of her people because she led more than 300 slaves to freedom via the Underground Railroad?
Harriet Tubman.
That's
Right.
correct. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, Harriet Tubman.
Mouths were
All right.
watering
Now,
over that one.
things are evening back up again. For a while there, Team A was winning
Stack
the
it up,
tug
it
of
looks
war.
Let me see, do either of you know any other famous black women ex-slaves who had been involved in the anti-slavery movement? Anybody else?
Is Harriet Beecher Stowe also one?
Well, she
Yeah.
certainly was
Uncle
involved
Thomas.
in abolitionist activity. The other woman I'm thinking of, whom you may want to look up, is Sojourner Truth. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, they did that answer properly.
That way.
All right, let's turn now to a first question for Team A, a little more up to date. What tennis player won the Wimbledon singles in 1962 at the age of 18 and went on to win 5 more times? She was 18 years old in
Maureen-
1962.
Big Mo, Maureen Connolly, is it? Or?
I'll give you one more hint.
What was she?
She also won the U.S. Open Championship on 4 occasions and is responsible for many changes in women's sports.
Yeah,
Yeah, that could be Billie Jean King.
All right?
But she's
What?
older though.
Well,
You
we
got
said
it?
Billie Jean King.
You're right.
Oh, okay.
All right. She's not that old. Okay. Billie Jean King has won 22 titles at Wimbledon, more than any other woman in tennis history. All right. Now, here comes your more difficult bonus question. What black woman tennis player won both Wimbledon singles and the U.S. Open in the 1950s? She grew up in Harlem and was the first black woman to be invited to play at the Forest Hills Tennis Stadium.
Do you have any idea?
No.
That's a tough one.
1950s. It's before my
All
time.
right. Team B? Okay.
It's like Margaret something, I think.
No, it's Althea Gibson.
Oh.
Ken knew the answer to that, yeah. She was my
generation
heroine.
thing.
Right, exactly. Me
Free to
too.
help.
In 1975, Althea Gibson was appointed the State Athletic Commissioner of New Jersey, and she's still involved in helping young girls and boys to improve their tennis game all over the country. Okay, let's go on now to, I guess it's
I
Team
think
B.
it's
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Team B, here's your first question. What woman won 2 Nobel Prizes, one in physics in 1903 and one in chemistry in 1911?
Rosalind Yallow.
Rosalind Yallow won the Nobel Prize, but not in 1903 or 1911. I'll give you one more hint, all right? With her husband, she discovered 2 elements, radium and
Marie
plutonium.
Curie.
That's the right answer, right. You should get a half a point for knowing that Rosalind Yarrow won, but Well, something about Marie Curie, okay? In 1921, President Warren G. Harding, on behalf of women of the United States, presented Miss Curie with a gram of radium in recognition of her services to science. Now, here comes your bonus question. Who won the Nobel Prize in 1983 for her work in genetics? She discovered jumping genes, and that's not the kind you wear, in the chromosomes of a plant. These mobile genes can alter the physical characteristics of the plants they produce. Want to take a guess?
Yeah.
It's not Rosalind Yallow.
Another hint? Another hint?
Another hint. When she received the prize, this woman said, "The prize is such an extraordinary honor, it might seem unfair, however, to reward a person for having so much pleasure over the years asking the maize plant, the corn plant, to solve specific problems and then watching the responses."
And our time is up, so we'll have to ask her an immediate answer.
Anybody?
No.
Team A?
I remember reading about it, but I don't
All
know
right.
the name.
The woman we're thinking of is Barbara McClintock. Barbara McClintock. And she did her research, interestingly enough, first at Cornell University in New York and then at Cold Spring Harbor, and pretty much worked in isolation most of her life. And now she's in her, I'd say, late 70s and was just awarded this major Nobel Prize. She's someone worth getting to know. There's a new biography of Barbara McClintock that was just written by a woman, Evelyn Fox Keller, that you might be interested in. Okay, let's go on now to Team A. And your first question, Team A, this I think is an easy one. What are the names of two women detectives who are featured on the popular television series?
Well, I don't watch that anyway, but I think we can still get at this. Is that Cagney and Lacey? Is that it? Is that the one?
I think
Or
so.
do you want the actresses or?
Oh, we want the names of the detectives. So the names are
Cagney and Lacey.
Cagney and Lacey. That's correct.
But I don't watch it. I promise you. Oh, we only get one prize?
Promise. All right.
Show.
Yeah, it's a classy show. Cagney is played by Sharon Gless and Lacey by Tyne Daly, and the show, interestingly enough, is written by two women, too. All right, now you get your bonus question, okay? Bonus question, Team A. Miss Marple is a famous detective character in 16 novels by which famous woman author?
Marple.
Miss Marple. I'll give you a hint. This author is British and probably the most world-renowned mystery writer of our generation.
Several Miss Marple series have been on television.
Right? There were two films recently, Death on the Nile and The Orient
Time.
Express.
Sorry.
Take it.
Just come out with it. That's the time.
Again, your name is like escaping me.
Time.
All right.
Time.
Team B.
Sorry.
Agatha Christie.
Agatha Christie. All right,
Right.
Team B. They got that one.
I know her.
You knew her, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's now start with Team B, the first toss-up question, okay? What woman novelist of the past wrote a book which President Lincoln said, "So this is the little lady that made this big war"?
Harriet Beecher Stowe.
The answer is?
Guess, yeah.
Harriet Beecher Stowe.
That's the correct
Right.
answer. Okay.
And there's yet another.
There's your
Oh,
chocolate
these piles
pie.
are growing. I hope they don't melt.
Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote this novel as a serial for a woman's magazine, and then it was put together as a novel, which is kind of interesting. And of course, do you know what the name of the novel is?
Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Exactly. All right. Okay, now we've got a bonus question for Team B. Whose book, The Silent Spring, written in 1962, created worldwide awareness of environmental danger? All right, let me see if we can ask that of Team A.
So just
Let's just
blur
say
it.
Rachel Carson.
That's correct.
Wow.
Good for you.
All right.
That's a good answer.
Slide across two there.
All right. Do you know what the danger she was pointing out was? Do you remember what? She was the first.
It was
Silent
acid
Spring.
rain or
It wasn't acid rain, but it was
nuclear
related.
waste? Nuclear waste.
No, it was DDT, pesticides.
Yeah.
Pesticides. Another interesting thing about Rachel Carlson is that until 1935, there was no woman in the U.S. Department of Fisheries who had any other job but clerical work. She was the first woman biologist to be hired by the U.S. government in 1935 in the Department of Fisheries.
Okay, everybody square their shoulders. We're coming to our last two pairs of questions. And as I look at these piles, they're not all that unequal, so it seems to me it could go either way.
All right, here we go. All right. First question now goes to Team B. Okay. Who got a perfect 10 3 times in a row in the 1984 LA Olympics? Guys hear that question?
Yeah.
It's two names. Mary Lou Retton?
Correct.
Yeah.
The answer is Mary Lou Retton. Boy, that was fast.
Sneaked it
All
up.
right, all right,
Names every day in the news.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, let me
Bonus.
give you the bonus. Who was the first American woman to win an Olympic gold medal in 1900? with a golf score of 47. Oh, there's a golfer in the crowd, I can
Dickinson, is that her name? Or something like that?
see. No, that. Her mother played in the same tournament. Does that help?
Doesn't help me.
Babe?
Okay,
Is it
good.
Babe Dietrich Sims?
Nope, not Babe Dietrich
Time.
Harris. Do you know?
Oh, it wasn't Babe
No.
Dietrich?
Nope.
Well, then there goes my answer.
The answer is Margaret Abbott, and it was the only time women's golf was ever played in the Olympics, 1900, and American women won all the medals, which gives you the answer about why they
probably
never
a
played
friend.
again. Right? All right, now let's go to Team A. Do we have some time left?
This is one more question. This would be about the last one.
All right, here we go. Meryl Streep, the actress, portrayed the life of this woman in a film last year. The real woman, a union activist, charged that safety procedures had been violated in the plutonium plant where she worked. What is her name?
I know the movie. It was Silkwood,
Oh.
but I don't remember her name.
Come on,
That's
when you
good
said I
enough for
thought you
me.
knew.
I'll take it. Silkwood.
Yeah.
Karen.
Yeah, Karen
Silkwood.
Silkwood.
Karen
Okay.
Silkwood. Okay, and here's your bonus question, and this is a tough one. Let's see if you can get it. What union activist demonstrated the evils of child labor in 1903 by conducting a caravan of striking children to a march from the textile mills of Pennsylvania to President Theodore Roosevelt's home in Oyster Bay, New York? What woman union activist?
This is 1901.
1903.
Turn of the century.
Turn of the century.
I wasn't born yet, so I don't know that.
No excuse. All right, Team B? The answer is Mary Harris Jones, better known as Mother Jones. Mother Jones also gave her name to a very famous periodical called the Mother Jones Magazine, which you can go out and buy on any newsstand. And it is an expose magazine of government abuses and what have you. By the way, she was one of the enemies of John D. Rockefeller. And when she finally organized one of his minds, she wrote, "I've licked him many times, but we finally made peace."
I'm told we have time for yet one more
One more, huh?
brace of questions here.
All
in this
right, all right.
Very tight struggle.
Yeah, I was going to say, now let's see. You got the first, I think it's now Team B.
Right.
Okay. When asked, how do you want to be remembered? Who answered, the tombstone question. I hope it says, here lies a good judge. I hope I am remembered as the first woman who served on the Supreme Court.
Sandra Day O'Connor.
That's correct.
Right, there's
Okay.
one.
Now here's your bonus question. Tougher. What woman lawyer in 1879 was the first woman to win the right to plead a case before the Supreme Court? All right, Team B.
No.
Team A.
Nothing.
She's someone you want to know. Belva Lockwood is her name. Her law school at first denied her a degree just because she was a woman, and later she petitioned President Ulysses Grant, who helped her finally get the degree. She went on to run for president as the candidate for the National Equal Rights Party in 1884.
Well, I think everybody will agree this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyable.
I was going to say, about even Steven, huh?
Yeah, pretty close.
close.
Somebody want to be gauche enough to count up and see who actually won.
That's probably up
And while they're doing that, let me just ask you, Allison, if I wanted to pursue this sort of on my own, do the libraries provide the information, or is it easy or hard to get to, or what?
Let me just mention a couple of things. One is that there's a series of books called Notable American Women that's published by Harvard University Press that gives you the histories and lives of about 1,500 women, including people like Janis Joplin, who are regarded as notable American women. That's one place to look in the library, Ken. And there are others, too. And we would really recommend that you start finding out the history of women in your own communities, not just the most famous national women, but also in your own communities.
How'd we do, teams?
The
Fess
edge
up.
just out with Sandra Day O'Connor by
Yeah.
yourself.
Questions to it.
Sandra, we'll have to.
Just from what you've seen here and from playing this game, you obviously gained some confidence because you did know a lot of these, right?
Yeah, I was surprised at
Yeah,
how
I
much we did know. I really didn't think we'd know as much as we did.
Well, I guess that's a good sign in
It
a
is a
way,
good
isn't
sign.
it?
And it also is a sign that it's not a trivial pursuit either. I mean, it's a
Far from
serious
trivial.
effort on our part and on your part to find out the history of these lost women and bring that to light.
All right, so have we stimulated anybody here today to dive for the library? And that
Or at least for the game once it comes out.
Yeah, that's very important.
speaking of the game coming out, is it really going to come out? I mean, will it be on your, thing next to the
Well, we'll be
Others.
sending out announcements of the game. We have about 900 questions completed. And by the way, most of the questions we've used today are American women, but the questions we've developed are about women worldwide, so that you get a feeling for the notable women all over the globe. And we hope to have that out by the summer in the form of cards.
All right, needless to say, there are hundreds of other women who've made significant contributions to the arts and sciences, business, politics, at the grassroots as well as national level. As Allison said, it's probably some in your community. We're going to be celebrating their achievements all this week. We look forward to additional ones by women of your generation. You can continue this game at home or at school, or if you'd like to have more fun, why not try researching women you think deserve recognition right there in your own home area, as we've suggested. This is Ken Alvord for Why in the World, and thank you for joining us this week. Why in the World is made possible by a grant from General Motors Corporation.